Good afternoon, and welcome to our 7th plenary session of the conference. My name is Kathy Prohl, and it is my pleasure to introduce the presenter of this session. Dr. Jerry Petroff is a professor and executive director of the Center for Sensory and Complex Disabilities at the College of New Jersey School of Education. His experience working on behalf of students, youth, and adults with disabilities and their family spans several decades. Holding a doctorate in psychological studies in special education, developmental psychology, and a master's degree in speech pathology and audiology, he has developed expertise in inclusive education, behavior support, early communication, social work or social network development, assistive technology, augmentative and alternative communication, and the transition of students with disabilities from school to adult life. The assessment, development, and education of children with deafblindness are central to Dr. Petroff's practice and scholarship. Current research activities include post-secondary college education for students with intellectual disabilities, the education of children with deafblindness, father's influence on deafblind child's development and education, challenging behavior of children with deafblindness, co-teaching and post-school outcomes for students with deafblindness. Lastly, he is a trained and experienced facilitator that has conducted hundreds of successful person-centered plans, systems-based strategic planning, as well as other group processes. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jerry Petroff.
Hey everybody, thank you Kathy, thank you so much. So there's been a theme coming through the whole conference that it was so sobering for me to hear, and among many other themes. So one theme is the importance of family involvement and importance of family involvement and bringing families into the process and allowing that. The research, as well as my experiences that I'm going to be sharing with you today, which I've coined "What About Dad?" Is rooted in that theme. So Dad's involvement here it is. Dad's involvement in the care, the development and education of their children with disabilities generally, in this case, for kids with deafblindness. So, raise your hand when I say these things. What role, oh, here it is right in front of me. What is your role regarding your attendance today? How many fathers or male co-parents are we have in the room? Okay, good. How many mothers or female co-parents do we have in our room? Right, what about grandmothers and grandfathers? Okay, what about uncles and aunts? All right, and guardians and caregivers? All right, and everybody else I know is a professional or a person with deafblindness themselves, etc. So just to see, there probably are less fathers here than there are mothers, and that's going to be important. Certainly in my research, what I recommend, and there are reasons why that occurs that I've been exploring. So again, this is my professional role. It's important to know something more personal about me, I think, that I was born and raised in New Jersey. I'm a New Jersey guy through and through. And my father passed when I was 4. So I've always had this interest in father's roles, even before I became interested or involved in deafblindness. I lived with my mom, my grandmother, and sister in a community of Eastern European immigrants. and I'm a trained actor before I was a teacher. I'm 6'2", right? I have a white complexion. My last name is Russian, so I have like a more of a pale complexion. I have hazel eyes, and I'm about 200 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilograms, that thing. Important identifying roles that I have, and that's an important, is that I'm a father of 2 sons, I'm a husband, I'm an uncle and a great uncle, and I'm a friend, mentor, and a colleague. These are the roles that I identify with. So why are we here? Okay, the primary goal of this session is to address this overall purpose of the role of fathers. And remember, in care, in development, and in the education of their kids, specifically with deafblindness. What do we know about it, right? What do we think we know? And what would we like to know? I will tell you we don't know much, okay? So I was very surprised to see that there was almost zero in the literature about fathers' involvement of kids who have kids with deafblindness, and maybe a little bit more with kids with more complex disabilities, but not much. So I'm going to present to you what we kind of know, what I've learned. This is, of course, the introduction. I'm going to go through fathers' roles, kind of introducing it, some unique considerations, and some assumptions. And I'm going to tell you a story about the Italian dads of children with Charge syndrome, because I'm working in Italy right now with Mondo Charge, and my friend and colleague, who is a father of a child with Charge syndrome from Italy, would have been here today, but his son became ill, like many times it happens, and he couldn't make it, and that's Alessandro. I'll talk about him a little bit later. So, one warning, when addressing this circumstance of co-parents that identify as male, it's critical to make every effort not to promote gender stereotyping. So understand that my research also is reviewed through colleagues of mine who are experts in gender and women's studies as well, so not to offend anyone or anything. Bit of advice, please ask questions after this presentation is over for any clarity. Assume no guilt in your role as a mother or father or teacher or administrator. This is not to give guilt to you guys. This is just what we know and what I think we need to do to improve. Know that there are more questions about this topic than there are answers, and be reminded that the material that is presented includes ever-evolving understandings. We're not completely there yet, nor will we ever be. This is a good beginning. And that was what my doctoral dissertation advisor said on my 3rd submission. Good beginning. I thought, good beginning? This has to be the end, right? So father's role in engagement. So indulge me. If you have a piece of paper, or if you can, and I was going to bring cards, but of course I forgot them. On one side, I would like you to put your primary role. The other side, to generate phrases that represent your idea of the role of a dad or a father or a male co-parent, and understand when I say dad, I'm including all of those things. If I had cards, I know you would be doing this, but in your own head, I want you to think of those things as I'm taking you through this. It is a wise father that knows his own child, and that's true. And what I have learned in my research is that dads know their kids very well, even though sometimes they don't get credit for that because they don't talk about it a lot, which is a theme. Now we need to make it possible also for them to even know even more about their children, especially children with deafblindness. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that my interest again comes from my own source, my own experience as a dad. I have 2 children. This is my youngest children. They're older than this now, but I think they're cuter now, so I use younger, and it makes me feel younger as well, right? Boré, he's been adopted when he was 16, 17 months old from Cambodia, and my son Parker was adopted at 6 months from China. They both have two dads, myself and my husband, and they are the most handsome, the most terrific, the most awesome kids in the entire world. And it is important for me to share this with you, because this is what I want dads and parents to do as well. What do you believe about your kids? And I've asked this question to dads, and there's another research presentation that I do that I tell you some of the good, bad, and the ugly of what came out. But my son Beret is sensitive, he's clever, he's curious, he's shy, he struggles with anxiety, and sometimes fear, but he's kind and thoughtful and polite, and he's funny. He needs help in believing in himself. He needs time to adjust to new things. This is important for me to know as a dad. My son Parker is extremely sensitive and intelligent young man, and at almost 25, really aggravating because he thinks he knows more than I do. He probably does, I guess. Parker needs support in attempting to do new things he isn't good at. He doesn't, as a kid, he didn't like to play that game because he wasn't really good at it, right? He wanted to be a winner. Parker has a sense of fairness and logic that must be understood, often can be a challenge to others. When he's so logical, and sometimes all you want to do is pick a restaurant to go to eat tonight, right? He grows and progresses in supportive and collaborative and civil, social, or professional environments. He's now a chemical engineer at Merck outside of Philadelphia, and he's responsible and engaged. So my thoughts about my kids is I give my sons unconditional love based on who they are and not what they do. I get to know and provide the appropriate parameters and limits so that my sons can grow in confidence and security. I express my feelings appropriately, showing that I feel everything from pride to disappointment, and assuring them that I will never give up. I recognize when my sons need me and be there for them when they do. I protect my sons while respecting their dignity, including the dignity of risk. Those parents who have children who drive a car. Remember the first day you gave the keys to the car to your kid, and you said okay, and you didn't want to give it, and they went off for the first time by themselves. You've done everything. You gave them a dignity of the risk because you've done everything, even though you didn't want to, if you were like me. I try to be the best father I know, and I know I'll never be perfect, okay? This was from a 2011 newsletter that I wrote for adoptive parents at one point that I was asked to write. And why is it important in this case? It's in this case because these, I believe, are the tenets and abilities of every single father. And when a father who is expecting, or a parent, or a family is expecting one thing from a child, and they come out with another thing, sometimes the adjustment becomes very difficult. I love my sons, but do I always know how to support them or interact with schools, doctors, and the community? Absolutely not. And you take dads with kids with deafblindness, even early on. And if you listen to Mark today, Mark Dunning, he expressed the same thing. No, I don't always know. I don't always know how to do that. Well, it becomes even more complicated, when a child has deafblindness. Father's role and function are really influenced by historical, cultural, and familiar context. What we know is that we learn how to be fathers from looking at our own father. Even though most of the men that I interviewed said, I don't want to do it the same way my dad did, but then I delve deeper, and they say, well, then wherever you are, there they are. My father is in me in some ways. So the past influences fatherhood. The relationship with your own father is critical. The manner in which men in the immediate family have interpreted fatherhood, what is in your own culture, and how an individual's culture is viewed and mandated as a role of a father. These are all really important. And you see, I'm trying not to link it just to deafblindness or disability. This is what all fathers want. The number one thing I heard, or statement I've heard from over 167 interviews with dads, in which 87 of them are dads of kids with deafblindness, was, I just want to feel like a real father. And I thought to myself, you want to feel like a real father? Like, my God, okay, well, do I feel like a real father? And like, well, what does that mean? What kind of construction do they have in their head? And they just didn't believe that. But I challenged a group, and at the end, I will show you why that was important and what they did about that as well. This is me. Changes in our traditional views of fathering is necessary at this point, especially with kids who have families of kids with disabilities, and especially for families of kids with deafblindness. If we want to support the healthy and successful development of our 21st century children across the world, varied cultural systems or family structured arrangement, we must do that. We must make some changes. So we may need to break some cycles of expectations and give permission to our male parents to expand and redefine their roles. So from my research, which I will show you some other things that I have learned, and certainly, if you want to engage me afterwards, I'll be more than happy to help to talk about this. We probably want to get away because I have so much to talk about when it comes to this, and I'm so interested. And by the way, I am still doing interviews, and at the end, there's a QR code. If any male parent or co-parent wants to do this, please fill it out. But I just came back from the Charge Conference, and I interviewed 11 mothers about fathers' involvement. Oh my God, okay? Boy, this is going to be a great writing year, because I have a number of other mothers that I will be interviewing about this and kind of putting together something. Remember, my research at the end is to say, this is stuff we need to do. Okay? The impact of fathers, though, are undeniable. And again, remember, I'm talking about fathers, dad, co-parent, male, uncles, etc. So research shows that increased levels of parent involvement in education are really impactful. They really make a difference when parents are involved. And despite the overwhelming focus on mothers, substantial and emerging evidence exists that demonstrates the involvement of co-parent and father as a similar but unique influence across developmental ages. So what do I mean by that? Well, here's a story. So when my oldest son was in fourth grade, I think it was, the teacher says, take this home to your mother, right? Take this home to your mother. So he took it and he put it in his desk. Next day, at the end of the week, it was supposed to come back. He said, the teacher says, I have all of them come back. Parker, why didn't you bring it back? You told me to take it over from your mother. I don't have a mother. She goes, well, you know what I mean. And he said, this is where he's a little bit, he said, well, then say what you mean. Okay, I guess I read Alice in Wonderland too much to him, right? He says, say what you mean. He revolted, I don't know where he gets that. Okay, but he revolted against that, right? Well, we have systems. Is it a bad thing? No, I'm not saying anything is bad. I'm just saying things have to be changed. What you'll see is that our research says that school systems are are built on more feminine and different ways than men who have been socialized to communicate and to be involved in their roles have been. So therefore, they're not as friendly to them. They don't realize this. It's very subliminal. It's built in systems. Same thing with healthcare. Right? I can't tell you how many mothers that I just, 8 of the 11 said to me, well, you know, my husband comes with me to the hospital for our kids' checkups and the doctor just talks to me. And there are reasons for that. Maternal instincts, all of that. And again, I'm not criticizing any of that. I'm not going to read all these things. They're there for you to read if you'd like, because I know everyone has a copy of that. But there are characteristics of a father as a parent, rather than a characteristic of a father as a male adult, appear to be most significant, okay? There is issues of there is masculinity, intellect, and even their warmth are much less important than are the characteristics of the relationship that they have established with their child, okay? You know, dads are always happy when I say to them, it's not the amount of time you spend with your child, right? It is the quality of time that you spend. And we have research to show that, right? So men who have guilt about how much time they can spend with their kids and the reasons why, the rationale. After I get them, when I do some focus groups, I do focus groups all over the world, but when I do them in America particularly, well, it happened also in Italy, and we're there scheduled to be there for 1 hour, and now it's 6 hours left, and everybody is still talking about it. There's a lot that they have to say that they haven't had the opportunity to say. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault again. I want to continue with that. The relationships between co-parents is critical, and that's sometimes difficult. I've been in the same relationship for 51 years, and believe me, it becomes difficult. I could tell you a story, but I'll tell you later. So, fathers with deafblindness. Are dads with children who are deafblindness challenged in additional ways? That was a research question I wanted. And the answer is yes, they are. They are. When you have a child with deafblindness, a lot of times, many of our children come into this world, with medical problems and other things like that. The family comes together and roles start to separate. And many times, and most of the time, moms are the ones who take this while dads do this. Additional efforts are required to find and access accurate information about alternative ways in which parents will teach and support the developing of their child. Early intervention systems in America come to the home or the care center. Who is there most of the time is mom or a co-parent. The other co-parent isn't there. So they have to get information secondhand. And it's whispered down the lane, right? Plus there's a lot of information. Parent advice and support with traditional family and friend networks are sometimes not appropriate, right? You can't, I remember the first time that my son Parker had diaper rash and I was changing him and I looked and I went, oh my God, what is this? I didn't think diaper rash looked like that. Who did I call? I called my mom. I didn't have a dad, but I called my mom and she told me, well, parents don't have a lifeline of another, of a mother who has a child with deafblindness, what to do. And you hear that in so many of the seminars that I've been going to even here. Early intervention is either replaced or augmented with specialists in vision, thereby demanding additional knowledge and acquire. There's so many ways that there's unique considerations in which fathers are often left out. Fathers of children with disabilities have a long history of being called the peripheral parent. That's actually a word in literature. They are the peripheral parent. All right? We don't want that. We want to enable environments. What we have a tendency to do is blame the father. And I hear it from teachers all the time. I can't get my dads to get involved. I've tried everything. Donuts with dads, on a Friday morning, right? Well, I don't know, donuts with dads? Or they say that they're trying, and I believe in their heart they think they are. However, not all the time. They're also just in the shadow. However, my recent studies of fathers with deafblindness, in particular charge syndrome, demonstrate that this effect of alienation is heightened. So in other words, it's heightened in those families of kids with deafblindness, with charge syndrome. This alienation becomes even more and more effect. So here's what the research shows, and I know I have to hurry, so an emphasis on strength, reducing stress, building strength through confidence, achieving sustainability of effort, and giving permission to craft a fathering role that's outside of the tradition. Those are what I'm learning so far. Okay, those are the things that are really important. You could read this later, but I'm going to give you just snippets of it, that fathers have been left feeling like the odd man out, like I said, that fathers' stress and depression have been found to negatively impact their relationship with their child during early childhood, and that fathers rarely found that their emotional well-being was considered by professionals. That's what we said. We have tons of interviews that say, they always ask, how's the mom, right? Or, how is this, how is the child? But rarely say, how are you? At least that's their perceptives. This is a quote from one of them that my colleagues and I did. And what I highlight there, that it says, this father says, it's okay to feel some sadness. Sure, it's okay. We have to feel sadness or we wouldn't know when we're happy, right? Here's another quote that illustrates. Everyone is asking, and I guess it's more a selfish type of question, how's the mother? How's the kid doing? The two main components of the situation, knowing that the father is still there dealing with all the same situations, maybe not involved as much, but how are you doing? Do you need any type of help? Are you coping every day? And this has been a repeated theme that we see. So one thing is strength, right? We want to keep fathers in the loop is especially important during the early childhood years. We've got to make change, which means, does the system have to change, or do the families have to change and enable fathers to be present? Well, I submit to you that the systems are there for families, so systems need to change. What do dads have to say about that? There's a number of quotes here. I don't feel confident in providing care and guiding my son's learning. That's my wife's job, and the doctors and teachers don't expect me to participate on that level. And I hear that over and over. Why don't they? And so my question is, why don't they expect you? There's a reason for that, but I'm not going to blame you. This is the message that you're getting. Sustainability of effort. Professionals can disrupt or challenge the roles and responsibilities that have been put into place by and for the family, by alienating fathers, not on purpose. No one's saying, today I'm just going to ignore dads. No one, of course, says that. However, we need to be conscious of it and really and do everything we can to involve them. It's really important. In the United States, the special education laws and regulations and rights are so complicated to learn with all of these acronyms and all of these different things. Now, on top of that, the health profession with, what's the hearing like? Why, what's a sensory neural hearing loss? What's bilateral sensory hearing? What about colobomas? How does that make? All of those things are complicated. If you, as a parent, miss 1 or 2 sessions or IEP meetings at that first beginning, you could be out of the loop. You could say, whoa, I don't understand what's going on here. That's how fathers get into that situation and then feel comfortable in this role. And mothers are really stressed about this, by the way. I can't keep up. I just don't have enough time to practice. I don't want to hurt her by putting in the context the wrong way. Her contact lens is the wrong way. Well, let's learn how to do it the right way, okay? These are things how fathers are feeling. So key barriers that fathers say, I have to work. I can't tell you how many fathers said, if I want to give my child extra therapy, I need to work more. I said, really? I mean, is that really why? And then after 3 hours and maybe 4 scotches, you know what? I just don't know what to do, so I stay and work longer, okay? And that comes out, and more than once. I'm not saying anything that just came out once. Poor communication between fathers and schools. That's why I tell every one of my teachers in training, ask the parents to do a new Gmail that they both have access to, and only use that. So everybody gets the information, and then double check as parents, that you're checking the emails regularly. Also, the way men communicate, which you'll see in a minute, is different the way women communicate, only because we socialize our brains in different ways. Schools are female-dominated environments. They just are, okay? And which is okay, I guess. However, there's an imbalance of representation that is felt in so many levels, and I'm doing some sub-studies on looking at case studies of schools and who are willing to say, let me do a father audit, which I'll give you some resources. There's a lack of peer network. Women talk, right? And they talk to their girlfriends and their fellow mothers and things like that. Fathers don't. That's the last, they go to work and they can't share those same things. At least they feel they can't do that. And they can't catch up. It goes too far and they can't catch up. And then there are cultural factors. I mean, my work in Africa has shown me that as well. However, in my heart, I believe throughout the world, this dynamic of a family, there are a lot of constants, so other factors are unconscious bias. That's not something I do as a male. Language, I can't learn that Braille or the sign language, or I'll never be able to do that. I see that piece, that sign language interpreter on the screen. I'll never learn that. Some assumptions, and then ways of communicating. Those are the ways. So what should we do? Is what it is. Well, the number one thing is, remember, dad should not be an add-on. Not an add-on at all. No donuts for Dad's Day. I mean, we have enough problems keeping our weight off. Special consideration to gender-influenced communication, and you guys could look at this. Women speak 3 or 4 times more than men do in a particular day. Not because our brains are different or anything's better or worse, it's just the way we have socialized people. And I don't know what I can do about that, but it's there. Produce family, father-friendly audits is really critical. This is just one resource to do that, but I encourage schools. I encourage, and one day I'll encourage clinics and hospitals also to check to see if you are when you're doing family-friendly and family supportive practice, make sure the element of dads are included in there, or co-parents. Because that is really critical. There's a YouTube clip I'm not going to show here, but something that you could watch later on. I don't want to leave you without any kind of resources of anything. Okay, so what do we do then, Jerry, and what don't we do? So I put together this suggestion, and it's going to be in a upcoming paper. And there's a number of papers that I've written already on practice influenced as well as our research. But let me go over some of these, because maybe this will give you some starting points. Or you may all say, he's a bunch of baloney. This is not as important as it is. But believe me, since nobody else has taken the time to, except for a few people, to look at this, it is really important. It is. And I'm doing other projects in my center, in my labs, around this as well. But what do we want to do? We want to try to limit gender imbalance by limiting the members of a team meeting. If dads have said, I go in there and all these smart ladies, all right there could be 12 of them all around and maybe one guy. It's overwhelming to me, and they always begin with the gender piece. I'm like, what are you doing? There's just like 12 people. Well, no. You know what? We do recognize gender, okay? At least they do. Okay, and so maybe reducing the size, especially at first, right, would be a little bit more friendly for dads. At least that's what they're telling me. Arrange convenient times for dads, even if it's not convenient for you. I know I asked my son, who is going for his PhD, is applying now to places. I said, you're going to be an academic? You want it? He said, I'm not going to be an academic, Dad. I will be a researcher in a company, but I'm not going to work as hard as you are working and get paid less. And he's like, so I know how busy you all are. I know that, but we need to arrange convenient times. So in Italy, convenient times means that I'm going to meet with my dad's group at 8 o'clock, and I used to think I'll get back at 10 when this old guy kind of should go to bed because he wakes up early, and I know I'm going to get home too, and I'm not going to and I'm going to have a hangover the next day. And so convenient times. Have clear and specific roles for dads within activities that have a beginning and a middle and an end. This is what we want. Hey, what you can do, Dad, here is this at this event. Or you could have, this is your role for here, and this is how you know that you've completed it. You've ever been to a party or maybe an event, you don't know too many people, or you maybe gathered at a charity event that you were going to participate in, and you didn't know anybody, and you're trying to figure out, well, how can I help? I don't know how to break in. Well, that's how dads are telling me that they're feeling. So recognize this, okay? Welcome them in and say, okay, here's what you could do. You can do this. Assume competency and have reasonable expectations. I want you to learn sign language, so the next time I come, you'll be a fluent signer, okay? All right? Start off small here. Teaching one sign, right? Right? Like, no is a good one, all right? Would you like that sign? No, all right? We'll do that. Start out small. Don't have those high expectations, because you'll lose them. I think you'll lose moms too sometimes, except they seem to be more tenuous. Remember, I speak women because I grew up with all women, right? I speak and I understand the breadth and scope of personalities as I'm speaking in generalities. Okay, be culturally competent and try to be non-judgmental. Okay, there are dads that in my past practice that I have gotten together and or I've been in an IEP meeting and they take the lead and mom says nothing. Well, it typically is a cultural thing, right? So I have to be culturally sensitive and I try not to judge, and I really do. Use technology as an alternative to face-to-face interaction. Sometimes that helps. Right? Men gravitate to technology a lot. At least that's what they say. React and be clear. Otherwise, dads may find it creepy or that they got it wrong. Right? Don't chastise dads for the lack of involvement, and I hear a lot of that. Don't ask dads to refer to their wife to explain and educate and model. Be direct, and don't talk too much. Get to the point, which is a hard part for me, you know. Gender stereotype may be familiar with the array of humans, the ways humans are socialized. Understand that. Don't listen both without your ears and eyes and make snap judgments. And don't leave without giving all of those identified as parents 1 or 2 assignments with clear, distinct instructions. And I like to start off with 1. If you do these things and don't do those things, I promise you, I've done a single subject research design that I haven't published that shows huge improvements, but it's not ready. We got to keep talking. More research is needed. So, what should dads of children with deafblindness or charged syndrome do? Well, I have about 4 minutes left, so I want to share with you a number of things. One, that I'm continuing my research. I need more subjects of dads who are willing to talk to me confidentially. I need moms, if they would be willing to talk to me as well. And me and my research in my lab, that would be really great. At the end, there's a QR code that you can sign up. I don't have one for moms in there, but you can just go on there and identify that you're a mom, and then I'll know, because it all goes to me. But I have the pleasure of working in Italy with an organization called Mondo Charge, which is a parent-run organization of kids with deafblindness. They are now expanding because there's no parent organization for kids with deafblindness in Italy, so they're expanding this. And so the first thing when I presented my work on dads was, we need to get a dads group in here. I said, okay, so we have a group of 15 to 20 dads of children with charge that initiated this support group. They have a Facebook page. They support each other. They come from every walk of life and every type of education, from people who work in the vineyards to CEOs of companies, and they come together as a support group. These are amazing men, are developing their role as a dad 1 day at a time. What I've realized, and I'm going to be kind of like generalize a little bit, that the Italian men are really deeply rooted in tradition, their families, and what it is to be a dad. They have, every single one of them says, I want to feel like a real dad, which just hurts me because I want to switch that around, because you are a real dad, and you got to get that new fatherhood program going, at least, or paradigm, and that's what I'm trying to introduce to them to see if that rings with them, and it does. And when I asked a friend and colleague, Alessandro Ferrara, he's father of DeLuca, who is like a nephew to me now, to collect pictures illustrating what the Italian dads do with their children. Especially after I've met with them at least 3 or 4 times, or when I met with them individually or whatever, and talked about the role of fathers. What do they do? And could you please give me permission to share it with my colleagues from across the world here? And Mr. Raffaella is the lead parent. So I want to end this with this. So this is what they sent me, and I think it goes without explanation to you. These are the roles that they do. I'm not sure mothers knew after I charged the fathers with the task of doing things and getting out and living, doing things they want to do with their kids, even though it may not be approved by mom. And I'm not sure, but I'll hear about that when I go back to next month in Italy. And these are some of those. And this is from fathers, has nothing to do with me. They produced this. That's Luca. I know every one of these dads as well as their kids. Yes, oh, I'm sorry, I should voice, I'm so sorry. So here's a picture of Perio and Carlo, and what Carlo is doing is designing a floor by using chalk with his dad outside. There's another picture of him looking into the stars. He has very little vision. He's recently, coloboma has had some complications, but his father is out on the shores of I believe it's in Italy, looking at the stars, and they are taking pictures and enlarging them. This is a cuddler, okay? This is the role. The father is cuddling Livia and just laying down. She loves to lay down and be centered and just laying down with her with him in his arms. Here she is swimming. She has a trach, I believe, and so he has her in a tube in the middle of the sea where they are. This is Pietro again with Mata, and you see both of them side by side at a video arcade shooting something, right? A shooting game, and on the other side, a driving school. He actually put him on. The father put Mata on a mini bike, and is letting him go on the mini bike, which I will get in trouble with next month when I get in Italy. But I challenged him to do something these are things that they say make them feel like a real father. This is Adventurers. You see here, Francisco is with his father, and they are on a trail somewhere in Italy, just hiking. The other is that his father is a bricklayer, so he's at work teaching his son with Charge syndrome and deafblindness the skills of bricklaying, which is something he said in a group that he said, this is what I'd like to do with my kid. I said, then I give you permission to do it. I gave him the sign of the cross. I was close enough to the Vatican, so it was maybe thing. So what have these Italian dads taught me? Reinventing yourself as a dad within the new fatherhood paradigm that I'm suggesting is not easy, but it has to be done. Regardless of how schools or medical professions or others view your kid, you must believe in them and find ways to stay involved. Overprotection will be limiting. It is important to take the calculated risks and celebrate the rewards. And we are all paving the road as we go, but others should not make it more difficult for us. And so we have to figure it out. If you're all interested at all in my work, maybe even not as an interviewer or as somebody who may or may not want to participate, please either see my information and email me. On my email, there's also my WhatsApp number, or take a look at this code, and you can find it in your app and contact me. I'd be more than happy to also entertain it shouldn't just be me doing father's research out there. I want to gather other people, researchers, and who are trained or not trained, who come and walk this journey with me, because that's what I think I would. So other than that, thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you feel the passion that I feel about this project and how important it really is. And thanks a lot, and thank all you dads, and thank you moms.
Jerry, thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the incredible work you're doing with the dads. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and I really can't wait to learn more about it. As a token of our appreciation, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy.
And keep up the good work.
All right. See you all around, okay?
It is now time for lunch. Please make your way to Canada Hall 2 next door. During the break, please visit our exhibitors and Group B poster sessions. They'll also be presented. Following lunch, we have one more concurrent session to enjoy, then another 30-minute break where Group D posters will be presented. We will all meet back here in Canada Hall 1 at 2:45 for our final plenary session of the day, building expertise with communication partners of people with deafblindness. Thank you and enjoy your lunch.